Hello and welcome again to another board meeting recap, this time for the month of May. J.D. Harden, Director of Communications for Henry County Schools, joined here by our Superintendent, Mary Elizabeth Davis. Welcome
Thanks for
again.
having me.
Thanks. We're glad to have you guys with us. And we've got a big meeting this month that we want to recap for you. We actually had two meetings, our study session and our business session. A lot of great information that came out of these two meetings. And so let's dive right into it. And let's share with our viewers what we covered. As always, each and every month, we do have a recap that's provided of our financial reports by our Chief Financial Officer, Christy Willis. She did a great job of recapping the months of March and April. And then we moved right into the next item on the agenda, the informational item, if you will. And that was presented by Josh Malcolm, who's our Executive Director of Facilities and Maintenance. Did a great job of recapping all the construction projects that are going on. There's a lot of good stuff. They do a phenomenal job of making our school system look world-class with the facilities that they keep up. But part of that was talking about our new additions that are coming, our replacement schools, McDonough High School and McDonough Middle School. But there's two schools that will be closing as a result of those two new replacement schools, and that's Henry County High School and Henry County Middle School. We had the great opportunity to really reflect back on the years that name has accompanied or adorned those schools and share some great photos, I should say, some things that happened back in the 70s and 60s that don't happen today. And then, of course, we got to feature some of our board members, 3 of our board members, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. 3 board members have graduated from Henry County High, and that's Mr. Hinton, Dr. Nutt, and Mrs. Cobb. And so we got to celebrate their senior pictures and their legacy at Henry County.
Class of 77, class of 88, and class of 99. We won't tell you whose is which, but those are the 3 classes that they represent. And so there's a lot of excitement that's happening around not only the opening of the school, but there's a lot of reflection that comes with the closing of 2 schools, I should say in name. And one of those things will be kind of a hawk walk that they'll celebrate some of the alumni as they come back. And there's also going to be a final bell ceremony before they graduate the class of 2019 there at Warhawk Stadium. So it was really neat to see that and kind of a walk back in time. And as we dubbed it, sharing the past with the future. So great opportunity to look in that. But as we moved out of that, we went right into a legislative update. This year was a busy year for the state legislature and the General Assembly as they passed several key pieces of legislation aimed at education across the state of Georgia. Dr. Carl Knowlton, Chief of Staff, did a great job presenting that. There were about 6 that I think we just really want to cover with you. Bills that have now become laws that the governor has signed. One was the dyslexia bill, Senate Bill 48. A little bit about that you'd like to share?
Sure. Yes, I think as all of us have an eagerness to ensure students are reading at grade level or above in every one of our grade levels, we know that starts with our earliest learners. And so the legislative activity under the Gold Dome this past legislative season emphasized our responsibility as local school systems to identify students who may experience difficulty as they acquire reading skills. Here in Henry County, we are proud of the early learning work that has been done, especially in our kindergarten classrooms, where we have really intensely ensured that students acquire those early reading skills. That dyslexia bill is something that will be piloted according to the language of the legislation in 3 districts across the state, with implementation more wide sweeping closer to the year 2024.
Exactly, and of course, coupled with that important piece of legislation, there was some clarification from last year regarding a transportation safety concern with some of the rules of the road, if you will, and how buses stop and when a car should be allowed to pass on the opposite side of that bus in the opposite direction. So that was clarified by the state legislature. There was also a bill that was enacted into law or put into law that talked about military families. A lot of times military families are moving about, and so it enables them to enroll in a school system without a physical residence. We also had something that the school system here in Henry County has been doing a great job of, verifying bus driver licenses and making sure that there's nothing outstanding with them that would, kind of keep them from being able to be the safest of drivers. But there is a piece of legislation that has now become a law that requires school systems to check twice a year bus drivers' license to make sure that they are up to date with all the things that they need to. So those are just a few things that the state legislature has done with regards to legislation for our school systems. Very impactful. Our school system does a great job of really focusing on those and really diving into how those will impact Henry County schools, and we're already working on that in preparation for the next school year.
That's right.
So moving right along from there, we did have Dr. Raymond Bryant, Chief Operations Officer, share a little bit about the Code of Conduct. And the Code of Conduct is undergoing its annual review.
That's right.
And they did a great job of presenting some of the updates on that, if you'd like to share a little bit about that.
That's right. So our Code of Conduct review is an annual review, and this year we started that process in February. We committed to a comprehensive reflection and review of our Code of Conduct and have done extensive work researching comparable districts across the state of Georgia and engaging in many conversations with representatives from both our legal team and our State Board of Education. And in that process, we actually had a public comment period in the month of March. It actually attracted almost 100 participants in that public comment period, which incredibly helpful in informing the updates to our Code of Conduct. Dr. Bryant was able to present an updated draft, which will now be available on our website for additional reaction and feedback. But there were three main goals to the updated version of our Code of Conduct. The first is to ensure clarity. Families need to be clear about the consequences associated with an infraction in one of our schools. The second is to ensure consistency. Consistency in the application of those consequences from classroom to classroom and from school to school. And the third is effectiveness. We have a commitment in Henry County to safe and secure schools, and that means having appropriate responses when that safety or security is compromised. And it is our intent that the Code of Conduct serve as a reliable document to maintain and ensure that safe and secure learning environment.
As Superintendent Davis mentioned, that information will be available on our website for you to go and check out and provide feedback. And that's how we really make a lot of these decisions and a lot of the things that you see, because we have to have stakeholder feedback. It's your school system, and we're here to make it the best school system possible, but we need your support. And we really appreciate all of those who have weighed in so far. Another item that was on the informational item portion of our study session was something that will probably result in a lot of cheers across the system as it pertains to an administrative regulation for our grading systems. And there's a lot of clarity that's been added based off some very important work. If you want to share that with our viewers.
Sure. So this opportunity to talk deeply about how we communicate student learning progress to our families is really of utmost importance. This work started really early in the school year when families, parents, students, teachers, assistant principals, all convened in a variety of focus groups, 66 total focus groups, in order to really talk about what does communication to families look like, how can we get better, and how can we make sure as an organization we have a sound system for grading practices. So we were able to get to a point of a regulation being shared with the Board of Education and the public last night, and I would highly recommend you take a look at the language of the regulation. But let me highlight a few key changes. First and foremost, in the elementary years, that kindergarten through fourth grade report card will now be a modified standards-based report card. We have seriously consolidated the number of individual and isolated items that require a grade on that report card, and transitioned that into family-friendly language, and will include a numeric score related to student progress in that particular content area. Also of note is that for our middle and our high school students, we will move away from our year-long grading and actually return to a semester grading model, which means that the grade you get at the end of the first semester is averaged, and then you start fresh in the second semester. Also affecting our high school students is that the timing for determining that class rank will actually be at the conclusion of senior year when all of the coursework has been completed. Currently, we make that calculation on the final Friday of April. We will now change that date to include the work that is done in May, especially including those final exams before the class rank is determined. Now, there is a key change that is only in effect for students who will be first-time freshmen in the 2019-20 school year or after, and that is the approach to calculating GPA. We will only calculate the weighted GPA starting with freshmen first time in 2019-20 and all students that follow. Now, it's important to not change something associated with a graduation requirement midstream in a student's high school experience. So this modification to the GPA calculation will initiate for our first-time freshmen this coming fall, and then it will roll up each year as they advance towards their senior year. Senior year, that class rank will then be determined based on that weighted GPA. These are important modifications, first of all, to take note of. But more importantly, we have the opportunity to improve our consistency of grading practices from classroom to classroom and school to school. And we will do that by moving to a common percentage breakdown for grades in teachers' gradebooks. All elementary school teachers will now be able to rely on a common percentage of their gradebook. 40% will be for assessment tasks and 60% will be for practice work. In our middle and high schools, we will move to a common gradebook that will be 20% final exam or end of course test, and then 40% for assessment tasks and 40% for practice work. This is a really important guidance so that our classrooms ensure consistent communication to families regarding student learning progress from classroom to classroom and school to school. It was actually a really important regulation that our board reviewed. They had a lot of discussion and have been very involved in this work. They too recognized the need for our organization to improve in this area.
And the comments that they shared with Ms. Morse and of course everybody that was involved in that process were very heartfelt and sincere and really appreciative of that heavy lifting that now will put our school system where it needs to be with regards to these grading systems.
I'm especially excited about the new standards-based report cards, and it's so clear I think it'll be clear to teachers, parents, and students so that they can monitor their children's progress. So I'm really excited about that. And then the gradebook categories, as a teacher, I love the consistency. I think that it still provides enough flexibility for teachers to be able to plug things in, but it will be consistent across the entire system. So I think that's very important. And then lastly, I'm very appreciative of the semester-long grading again, because I know kids do get discouraged, and teachers get a little discouraged toward the end of the school year knowing that there's not a lot of impact on grades. So thank you all for this really hard work.
Tell me what I need to know. Give me the basics. Tell me what I need to know. And I think y'all have done an excellent job of this. We also, in where I'm coming from, and I apologize for being late, we have the semester grading. And it's wonderful because the kids can see, well, I didn't do so well first semester. I can make it up second semester, or at least I won't have to go to summer school or credit recovery for both semesters. You know where you stand, and it's just, it makes all the difference in the world. They don't seem defeated. If they were defeated at Christmas, when they come back in January, they're ready to start over. Thank you very much, and I appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, Dr. Nutt.
And of course, Ms. Moore stayed right there. She had the next item up, and it was another regulation about instructional resources. And I believe there's some exciting news about this process for securing or acquiring a partnership, if you will, with a instructional resource provider.
That's right. I mean, let's keep in mind the most important work that our Board of Education does is the work they do through policies and then the regulations that follow those policies. And we have all felt a real eagerness to see an increase increase in the number of instructional materials that teachers and students had access to at their fingertips. And the board was so serious about this that they passed a policy last month and then a regulation that has followed. And that regulation lays out a process for acquiring and distributing resources to all teachers and to all students to support their learning not only in the classroom, but as it extends into the home. Now, right now, we're in a really exciting moment because we have two strategic partners who are interested in providing core content resources to our district. Those two publisher providers are available for your review and your feedback, and we would invite you to participate in the online review of resources to give us your feedback. We are prepared to make a recommendation to the Board of Education to make a purchase and acquire resources for our teachers and our students in time for the next school year.
Well, I know that was another one that our board members were just really excited to hear. Anytime you can partner with somebody for a long period of time, that's always going to foster a lot of great innovation and ideas, and of course support that ultimately plays out in a successful manner for our students. So really excited about that. But you know what? We're only, as we're filming this right now, we're only about a week away from, a little bit over a week away from school being out for the summer, which means there's 9 weeks after that until the next school year starts. But during that 9-week time, during that summer month, or that summer period, we have now created an opportunity for students to keep the learning going. Never stop learning, if you will. Dr. Brian Blanton, our Chief Information Officer, got up to present to the board a new concept for Henry County Schools. Not new concept, just an idea, but a new concept for our school system to really keep the learning going for our students this summer. It's going to be very beneficial for their learning, or that summer slide, as people talk about. Share a little bit about the excitement that was experienced in the boardroom with that presentation.
Listen, we've got to keep the learning going, and we have launched a campaign, Never Stop Learning. And you can find digital resources at your fingertips for students and parents of all ages to make sure that summer is meaningful and that you invest time in keeping learning alive. So you can access the digital environment, but it's going to give you ideas on things to learn, things to create, ways to play and stay physically active, and ways to get prepared. You will have an exciting experience by plugging into Never Stop Learning. And I was thrilled that Dr. Blanton had a chance to share that with the board, and they were certainly very excited.
And you could see some eyes light up in the crowd for those that were there for our study session to hear that, because I think truly there is an opportunity for our students to keep the learning going. Not that they have to be behind a computer all summer long, but it is an opportunity to keep those brains active.
That's right.
That's right. Moving right on to our business items section. Now, a couple of these items that were in there were also addressed during the business session later that evening, but we want to talk about them right now because, man, these were monumental things for our board to, actions for our board to take. One, on the budget, our largest budget in Henry County Schools ever. We are now at $407 million, I believe, if that's correct, in our revenues for the upcoming school year. But this budget that the board has approved in a tentative form really puts a strong emphasis on supporting our students, but supporting the employees who make it happen. So
That's right.
Share a little bit about the grand excitement around that, if you will.
Sure. I mean, the most important investment that our Board of Education makes is in the people who bring learning to life. And that's from the bus driver who greets you at the bus stop and through every aspect of a student's day till the moment that their bus drops them back off in the evening. Our Board of Education made a commitment to the employees of Henry County Schools. And that commitment was to ensure that we attract and we retain the most exceptional professionals in our industry. And the reason they have that commitment is because every child's learning experience is so directly connected to the role the employees in our organization play. So this student-focused budget is really designed to make sure students have access to resources in their learning and that the highest qualified individuals are in front of our students. The The budget that was presented includes a raise for most of our classified employees, and that includes classified employees that serve at a local school or serve in a larger organizational capacity. There's a 3% raise plus the step for those employees that are on an eligible step. That's going to be a 6% raise for most of our classified employees. For our certified employees who serve at schools, there's a $3,000 raise that's passed along from the state, but passing it along required our board to dig deeply into local funds in order to also contribute to the dollars necessary. In total, there is a $22 million dedication to our employees.
That's a huge number right there, and it really speaks volumes about what the board feels about the quality job that everyone in our school system does on a daily basis and what they are able to contribute to boosting our school to be recognized on a state and national level. So
That's right.
you think that was big. We move right into another monumental piece for our board, which was the approval of their plan of action, Henry's plan of action. It's going to set the standard for our school system moving forward and the student achievement levels. Share a little bit about that because it's great work that they just accomplished.
Our Board of Education has been on a year-long journey to study what do boards of educations of high-performing districts do? How do they ensure direction, stability, and high-performing schools for the community in which they serve? And I am so proud of the very heavy lifting work that our Board of Education came together to accomplish. They have collectively agreed to Henry's plan of action, which does 3 things to ensure that we have the highest quality education in a Henry County classroom. There's an aligned system for teaching and learning, there is a framework for accountability, and there is a framework for continuous improvement. Those 3 components will serve as the anchors for this organization as we pursue the fastest improving and highest performing school system in the state of Georgia. I'm so proud of our Board of Education, and they had a lot to say about this work.
It was very a reflective time for them because this work started over a year ago with them coming together and really studying this and getting to this point. And they had a lot of great things to say, as you mentioned, and we'd like to hear a little bit of their comments at this moment.
Yes, I would just like to say work well done, and I just want to thank Dr. Davis for leading this work. The Henry's plan of action to ensure we are a high-performing district is much needed. I just believe we're headed in the right direction, and I do believe in the board that I do believe when the board took its action and agreed on the plan of action to build up on the following shared core beliefs. As we all watch and look at them when we come in this boardroom every time we approach this boardroom, I think they're going to be very effective, and we are moving in the right direction to strengthen the core of this system. And I'm just happy to be a part of it, and I just want to say thank you for your work and the board's work on this.
I just wanted to kind of echo what Mrs. Edwards said and just say that I'm thankful that we have this plan and we are all unified together. And as she said also, we're moving in the right direction. We're moving forward, and I believe that the district is going to continue to move forward, and I'm just excited about adopting this. So thank you.
Yeah, I too just want to kind of echo what everybody else just said, starting with Dr. Davis. Just thank you for bringing this work to us, but also thank my fellow board members for all the extra hours we put in developing this and creating this and unanimously agreeing upon this. This is the right direction for Henry County, and I too am very excited, and I know that Henry County is moving in the right direction to move us forward. So thank everybody involved.
So with all the good things that they said, they really all brought it back to you could attribute it to their teamwork. We really have a strong board that is focused, one collective unit on student achievement and making this the best experience for all of our families in Henry County. And they just continued to speak more and more about what it meant to get to this point for our school system. So, of course, the nighttime brings the business session, and it's a grand reflection of all the hard work of our students and staff throughout the year. And we really start that with an inspiration provided by our students. And the Woodland Middle School String Ensemble provided some great music to open up our meeting. So great, in fact, the crowd gave them a standing ovation. So thank you very much for sharing that, your musical talents, not only with our board, but also with the community at large. Rolling out of that, we had the bulk of the meeting was taken up by our awards and recognition, and that's okay. We enjoy recognizing all of our students and staff for the many things that they accomplished throughout the year. We had 10 different groups that were a part of this recognition. The first two started off with one being the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. They've contributed over $200,000 in scholarships to our students over the years. They came back and presented even more this year to 17 scholarship recipients. So thank you for that. And then, of course, we had the the Henry County Board of Elections and Registrations come out and recognize 4 of our high schools for their participation during the 2018 midterm election cycle. So we're really excited to be able to recognize, and a couple of the principals were able to join us for that. But moving from there, we had a lot of student groups. The bulk of that was our CTAE groups. They had so many students there, just from HOSA to FCCLA to FBA, FFA, and so on, so forth and so on. I can't name them all, and I apologize, but there's a lot of acronyms in there. But these students went out and showed their talents and their skills in their respective groups, and we were excited to recognize them as a part of that. During the meeting. We got to wrap the meeting up with a couple of employee recognitions, one being the Media Specialist of the Year, who just found out she's a South Metro Media Specialist of the Year. And then we also had our Heart of Henry recognition, a new recognition that really speaks volumes to our emphasis on every single person who works for our school system, no matter what position they work in, because they really support students. Moving out of there, we actually have some new members of the the leadership teams in some of our schools. We had some personnel that were approved. Care to share that?
When the board took action to approve the personnel recommendations, we added a new member to our leadership team, and I'd love to congratulate Mr. Tyrone Grant. He is going to be the principal at Oakland Elementary School. And additionally, I had the opportunity to present the board a recommendation for a reorganization associated with our district leadership team. There were 3 main priorities. The first and foremost was to ensure the leadership capacity was deepened so that the coordination and cohesion of this organization was never compromised. The second was to integrate personalized learning into the larger teaching and learning work to make sure it is a seamless coordination for all things supporting teachers and supporting students. And then finally, that there is a season in Henry County schools where we are preparing for tremendous growth. We know that, and we're thrilled to be a destination school district. But because of that, there is a heavy emphasis in the reorganization on systems improvement and systems alignment. And so you'll see reflections of that if you take a minute and look at the updated organizational chart for the district leadership team. Our job in the district leadership team is to support schools. And we are proud to do that. And we need to organize ourselves in a way that is clearly aligned and clearly focused behind the Henry Plan of Action that the board has laid out.
With all that we just ran through from the business session, that can only mean one thing, that we're at the end of the year, the end of the school year, believe it or not. It's really hard to believe when we reflect back on all that we've accomplished this year. A lot to be proud of from our board, from our employees, and of course from our parents and from our school community, because you guys make this happen for us. We couldn't do it without you, and so we want to thank you once again for your participation, and we invite you back many, many more times. So again, for the last board meeting recap, I should say, for the school year, we thank you for joining us. We'll have 2 more sessions in June and July, and then before you know it, we'll be starting a new school year again. So again, thank you for joining us. J.D. Harden, Director of Communications, Mary Elizabeth Davis, Superintendent of Schools. We wish you a safe and happy summer. As is the case with most board meetings, there's a lot more information that you're able to witness being there in person or watching the full version on demand that we're unable to bring to you here in this very short board meeting recap. The links to those presentations and videos can be found in the description section directly below this video.